you, but first, let me ask this question. Incentivization has played a very important role in development of a number of things, especially in the West. When we look at the venture capital industry in United States of America, that got promoted because of the tax treatment that the government gave to venture capital industry. What tax incentives can play for the benefit of Islamic banking and finance in the countries where there is significant interest in Islamic banking and finance? Although when we talk about Islamic banking in conventional framework, all the time we are referring to level playing field for conventional and Islamic. But my question is one step further. Is it possible to give some kind of economic incentives to Islamic banks and financial institutions at an early stage of their development? Primarily because in the beginning their cost structure is not favorable and they have to face a number of challenges. So here comes the role of the government to come up with an incentive package to let these new institutions develop so that in due time they are able to compete with conventional banks.
Well, let me take that question, but I may need help from Khalid and Dawood, because the example I want to give is not the United Kingdom, where I'm an expert, but Malaysia, where I'm definitely not an expert. My understanding, subject to my colleagues correcting me, is that the Malaysian government on several occasions has given tax incentives for Islamic banking by taxing profits made from Islamic banking business more generously than the way it taxes profits made from conventional banking business. Is that correct?
No. Yes, it is.
No, not which part?
Well, I mean, there have been tax incentives in terms of issuance of so-called...
Oh, yes, yeah, but that's for the issuer, but not for the bank itself.
But for the bankers themselves, no.
What they have done, I mean, until 2002,
yes,
Islamic banks were at a disadvantage compared to the conventional banks in terms of the tax regime.
Yep.
Then they changed two laws. And they neutralized and said there is no negative incentive for the Islamic banks to compete with the conventional bank. They can compete at level playing field. And that's happened. So therefore it became neutral in there. They went one step further when it came down to the sukuk issuance in there, that they have said that the sukuk issuance fees, which in a conventional bond issuance is not a deductible expense, but it's a deductible expense for the sukuk issuer in the Islamic mode if he issues sukuk. So that is the tax incentive that they have given out as to propagate the capital market development, because the rest of the businesses were now at par. In there. But what you are asking has never happened. In no country has it happened, because the general regimes in most countries, or all countries, has been pro-conventional banking. So to start with, the Islamic banks have to fight even to come at par with the conventional banks before they can even consider getting some incentive in there. Now Malaysia has been a unique example in there, that they have been pro-Islamic banking because of the financial services master plan, and they have looked at it as an incentive development in there. But all other countries, be it UK, when I was in UK, you had to try and get the VAT on an equal basis. It took me 2 years to fight the case for VAT. So those kinds of things are happening everywhere. I mean, today, for example, in say Pakistan, the profit distribution on a musharaka transaction becomes a taxable, whereas if it was an interest distribution from a conventional bank, it's fine. Okay, so it is negative because the regimes generally do not understand that the nature of the beast is very different. They tend to look at it and say, you made money on it, you're giving it to him, this is partnership profit distribution, therefore you shall be taxed. But conventional bank, part of a pool of funds, gives it out, no problem at all, the tax treatment is totally different. So that's one part of the problem that comes in. As far as the question of giving incentive to develop the markets further, Now, most of the GCC countries, tax is not an issue in there. Tax is an issue in some of the Islamic countries which are semi-developed or which are in G20, that would be like a country like Turkey. There is no preference given for Islamic in Turkey at all. In fact, it still is negative against the Islamic. The participation banks are still at a disadvantage compared to conventional banks. So, I wish somebody would hear you and do something about it, but it's unlikely.
Now, if you come back to countries like the United Kingdom government has done a great deal of work to eliminate the extra taxes that Islamic finance would suffer. But from a political perspective, it's inconceivable that a country like the United Kingdom would give explicit tax benefits to Islamic finance that were not available to conventional finance. The same goes for countries like the United States or France or Germany. That just wouldn't be politically possible. If a country like Oman wishes to do that, it can, but of course, if you have zero taxation in the first place, then it doesn't make any difference.
All right. Thank you very much. We have time for one question. Khalid.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Can you hear?
Hello?
Okay.
In a country like Oman, if there is a bank who has intention to convert, it is a conventional bank, but when they open the door for Islamic banking, they have one of two options, whether they open a window or they go for a conversion, to convert to full Islamic bank. Which one do you recommend? Which scenario? And keeping in mind that they will have a grace period for both models. Thank you.
Did you understand the question?
Yes.
Let's start with David, and then I think all of you would like to answer this question.
I'll comment on that briefly. I'm always a great believer in line of least resistance. So based on my experience, I would say that going the window route is line of least resistance. You have to build up your human capital so that they're capable of running an Islamic bank. You have to look at how your systems are aligned, your operational processes are aligned, and you also need to make sure that your strategy is fully in place as to are you actually competing with the other part of the bank, or are you complementing it and you giving a choice. And in my experience, I think you need to build up some experience on that. Whether it takes a year or 2 years or 5 years, I don't know, because there are a lot of unknown elements to me in this marketplace. But my opinion would be that if you go immediately to create a separate bank or convert everything to an Islamic bank, it puts a lot of stress on your human resources and also on the way in which you run and manage the bank. If they're trained and if they've got experience elsewhere, then I think you can go down that route. But the line of least resistance for me would be to open a window and maintain control in order to eliminate any risk which may come about as a result of operational problems because you don't have the experience and knowledge in what you're doing.
Thank you. Rodney.
Yes, we have seen examples of successful conversions not far away from here. National Bank of Sharjah, for example, became Sharjah Islamic Bank, and that was done successfully. But there were problems. Obviously, they had support from the government of Sharjah, which was quite enthusiastic about this change. And of course, they did a lot of financing on behalf of the government. The problem was dealing with overdrafts, and basically, clients that wanted overdrafts obviously couldn't stay with the bank because, of course, Sharjah Islamic Bank could not give overdrafts. So they did lose some clients, but I think it is regarded as a successful experience. But I can also see why, if you have clients that want to maintain facilities like overdrafts, the window route may be more attractive because you retain those clients. But I think conversion is a lot to be said for it. Providing that you can bring the clients with you.
Khalid.
It depends upon the bank itself. If the shareholders are committed to Islamic banking and are committed not because of a commercial consideration but also committed out of heart in there, then it becomes much easier to try and transform, because a window model never leads to conversion to Islamic bank. There has not been many experiences where a window, which is a tail, have managed to convert the whole bank into a Islamic bank. nowhere in the world has happened so far in there. But where a shareholder has decided that he wants to convert this bank into Islamic, and this is happening, it happened in Kuwait when the real estate bank was converted into Islamic bank. Totally, the shareholder decided, I want an Islamic bank, I do not want a conventional bank. Took decision, took 2 years and converted. That has happened. It is happening in Egypt where an old bank has been taken by Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank and they're now converting it totally to Islamic bank. So that is happening in there. This half-baked solution, oh, we will start with Islamic and gradually we will become Islamic fully, does not happen because there is always the conflict between the two sides, and in terms of this going forward, if you have a stepchild can never become the full child because you always remain a stepchild. And that is the problem that I think you need to look at in there. In a place like Oman, or in a place like Saudi Arabia, let's take the example of Saudi Arabia. Earlier, one of the speakers mentioned that all of their retail branches of their bank has become Islamic, or the products have become Islamic. Yet the bank has not become Islamic. The bank is still a conventional bank. The bank does not say that they are Islamic. They still call themselves a conventional bank, even though all the customers or retail customers are Islamic. So this is an example of next door neighbor, not very far away. So from that perspective, to expect that if I open a window and in 10 years' time the window will become the parent, very wishful thinking. It does not happen in there. It hasn't happened in all this time that I have been in the banking profession, and except the cases that I recited to you where there was a forced decision by the shareholder, I want to convert to Islamic. Sharjah Islamic took 3 years. And they had the joint venture with Kuwait Finance House who would not invest into it. AOIFE now have a very clear standard on when a conventional bank can be called Islamic, what do you need to do, what you need to stop doing. The whole rulings and policies are there. So it isn't that difficult. In a place like Oman, it is not difficult to foresee what is there in a conventional bank that would keep the shareholder so attracted to the conventional bank that they wouldn't want to convert to Islamic. I cannot see. But I'm an outsider, my experience of local economy is zero. But this is how I foresee that. And this is where the difficulty comes in terms of having a stepchild.
Basically, I agree with Khalid. I'd like to give another example. I think a few years ago, Dubai Bank converted from being a conventional bank to being a wholly Islamic bank. If you want to have an Islamic bank rather than a conventional bank, then I agree that having a window first isn't going to get you to being Islamic later. But if you decide to make that change, you need to be very clear about how many of your customers you will lose on the deposit side, how many customers you will lose on the financing side, how quickly you think you can replace them, or can you manage without them. There's a very, very major step in this. It's what the civil service in the UK would describe as brave, which is sometimes civil service speak for foolhardy, but it's a very serious decision to take, but it can be done.
You wanted to add something? Yeah.
When in one of my earlier lives, I spun out the window from a conventional bank in Malaysia. Now that window had non-Muslim customers. Previously, they looked at it and they said, oh yeah, we are in part of the conventional bank, we have nothing to fear. And then the window was spun out into a standalone bank. The first time it had happened in Malaysia. Yeah, this is 2005. The first time a window was converted to a full-fledged Islamic bank in there. And the great challenge that came about was to try and retain these customers, because the Malaysian economy is not all Muslim, because the economic power is balanced in there. And therefore, it is a challenge in there. But Oman does not have that situation. Oman, you do not have to. In fact, from my experience in Islamic banking, it's easier to sell to a non-Muslim than to sell to a Muslim, because Muslims have 5,000 questions because they hear from some mullah and they come back and say, but my mullah says this is not Islamic, this is not Sharia compliant, this is like this. So it's greater challenge to convince Muslim than to convince non-Muslim on Islamic banking.
David?
Yeah, if I might add, and I talked about line of least resistance, I agree actually with Khalid that you know, if you set up a window, you're never going to get there. But the line of least resistance, I think if you're embarking on the journey, you have to have a very clear idea of what your destination is going to be. And I think the situation in Oman could be that if you feel your customers are with you and you feel you've got the products and your staff are ready and you can convert all the systems to, you know, do the appropriate accounting and so on and so forth, then you're probably in a position to go for it immediately. But when I said that line of least resistance, what I was referring to was that, are you sure you have all your people up to speed on this, that they actually understand the products that they're selling or promoting or managing the risk on? Are you sure that your systems are in place and your operational processes are in place to address that? Are you sure that the infrastructural community around you, not only the regulator but the legal profession and the accounting profession that's going to review your books, are they actually up to speed to be able to accommodate that as well? So I think there is a choice to be made, but I agree with Khalid and I think with Mohammed as well, that you're not going to get an Islamic bank by starting it up as a window. You have to have a very clear plan that says we may start that way, but it's over within 1 year, 2 years, once we've got all these other things up to speed.
Excellent, thank you. We have one question to be on. Okay, so from there, yes.
السلام عليكم عيسى الريامي. بداية قبل فترة طبعا إن راح يكون تتكون بنوك إسلامية في السلطنة بداية 2012. على بداية 2012 في بنوك إسلامية راح تطرح اكتتابات جديدة وفي يمكن في منتصف العام تبدأ تباشر عملها. الحين في بعض البنوك التجارية بدأت تفتح نوافذ لها وفي بعض منها بدأت تهيئ لافتتاح نفس الشيء نوافذ. سؤالي المحدد: ما هي شرعية الأموال التأسيسية لهذه النوافذ؟ لأن هناك مصاريف بداية تأسيسية إلى ما تفتح النوافذ هذه، في أموال تشغيلية نفس الشيء. ما هي شرعية هذه الأموال التي تبدأ بها هذه النوافذ؟ وشكرا.
Thank you very much. If someone could, for the benefit of others, could translate this question, and if you could give the mic over here to Khalid, that would be good. Yes.
I think he's asking about the capital of the window. I mean, like Bank Muscat now is intending, or I think they announced this morning to go for a window. But however, we should also to good extent trust. He's asking about, is it Sharia-wise to go for this capital, and since the original of that capital is mainly was from a commercial bank, what's the Sharia opinion on that?
That's a very interesting question, and we have a Sharia panel tomorrow.
Yes.
And I would suggest that this question should be put to the members of the Sharia panel, because they are more qualified to answer that question.
I think also the good thing that Bank Muscat also announced about the Sharia committee in the same time. So to good extent we should also rely and trust that Sharia committee, because of course these questions they are used to them, and of course they have justification and they make sure before announcing of it.
Right. What I would say, instead of, if you allow me,
Yes.
we have Dr. Mundar Kahf with us. If you could kindly wake him up. Doctor, there is a question and we wanted to ask you. The question is, these Islamic windows or Islamic subsidiaries, they get their capital from their conventional parents. And the question was, is it Sharia permissible to get capital of an Islamic institution coming from a conventional financial institution which is interest-based?
That at least reduces the evil, because
Yes.
otherwise it was going to be used on interest, isn't it? Because it's an interest-based institution. So it is better, yes.
All right, okay, so the answer, and you should ask this question again tomorrow. We are actually running out of the time. 3:15 is the time when we will start our next session, which is on IT solutions. This is basically technical solutions in Islamic financial services industry. But before that, I would like to, on my behalf, on behalf of the organizers, and on your behalf, I would like to thank the panel for sharing your insights into the topic. And I'm sure, okay, like myself, the delegates, okay, they have enjoyed the discussion very much. Thank you very much. You stay here for the, I think there are some presents for you. If you could kindly bring here. We start with Dawood Vikri Abdullah. So, you are going to, yeah. Professor Rodney Wilson.